this is another interesting question, and I keep thinking about my own experience of trying to learn software development from scratch. And at the moment, or at least by now, I'm not successful in doing that because basically I was doing some other projects, and I did learn a lot about software development. I work with many software developers, so I keep learning things every day, but I don't think I made a huge progress in technical side of it because I'm not able to write even a simple program. But I found a couple of interesting points from my experience that what are the most difficult parts, what are the most challenging things for a person who wants to learn development from scratch. And I can just share these experiences with you, and plus we can get some ideas from you, so it will be interesting to discuss. So I found that number one challenge in learning software development from scratch is that most people, when they develop tutorials, they actually guide you through the process. They basically you can do the same thing as they do, so you can just follow them. But they, for example, they set up the development environment before they start the tutorial. So they basically say, okay, so go to that site, download that framework, and just set it up on your computer. And it might sound really simplified, but I have no idea, for example, at the moment, except for just going to a website and downloading that .exe file. For me, everything else is still a black box because I don't know how to set up that particular framework. And even if I do install it now, I need to go to command line and I need to type something, and I have no idea what should I type. And I think this is something missing from tutorials, and I think it should be there, especially for people who actually never done software development before. So there is some challenge on the learning side. So that's one question, and the second one is I got lost in number of frameworks that people are learning. Like, for example, let's talk about JavaScript only. So first I did a hackathon project that was based on Angular. So I was not Angular 2 actually, Angular 2, because Angular 2 was just released by Google at that time, so it was a completely new, promising, and so. And it was very interesting. I mean, I was not involved into actual Angular 2 development, but I was just listening to conversations of developers. And at that point of time, I was thinking, oh yeah, Angular 2 is something very interesting, and it's promising, and hopefully it will grow, so maybe I should learn Angular 2.
Okay.
And then, just a few weeks later, I realized again from my friends, talking to my friends, developers, now we are talking about React, and they're saying, oh, React is much better.
Okay.
And then, another friend of mine said yet another thing, that, for example, he compared Angular 1 and Angular 2. And he realized that Angular 1 is faster and Angular 1 is better than Angular 2. And then the question that came to my mind is that, so why Angular 1 was actually replaced by Angular 2 if it doesn't really bring any performance improvement? So I think that every learner of software development will have that kind of problem in their minds, because like which framework? So if I spend some time on one framework, I will probably learn it, but is it really beneficial if that framework might be gone in just 6 months, and I will have to switch to another one and spend more time and learning it, and so, and that's a serious challenge actually.
So what would you like me to talk about here? Because I mean I hear what you're describing, but obviously this has already been your experiences, and my understanding right now is that you're not focusing on doing that anymore, right? So
yeah, I mean, at the moment this is not my focus, even though I'm actually I think later maybe I can share more thoughts with you on what I'm planning to do to actually learn software development. But that experience was very useful, but at the same time maybe that's how I shouldn't be learning software development, because I was thinking that I can learn one framework and then it will.
So is the question is how to properly learn software development?
Yeah, I guess that's the
I mean, obviously that you find that the setting up you find this. You find the following tutorial is a challenge, right? And so let's just talk about that, I guess. There are a lot of tutorials out there today. And these tutorials that are out there, a lot of them has one particular common theme to them. And that common theme to them is this, is that they are free.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm not necessarily going to say that free tutorials are not good, but the free tutorials are usually not designed with how to make money from customer in mind. So because they're not designed for that, a lot of time it means that who is the customer is unclear when it comes to the free things. And that's the part, this is the reason why that I personally believe that there are still a lot of rooms for paid content. Because free content is great. Free content is great in terms of market reach. But that is for the benefit of the content provider. Yeah. It's not for the benefit of the person who wants to consume those contents. Person who wants to consume contents, if they consume free content, then they are taking on the responsibility of ensuring the content fit.
Sorry, Yin-So, there's...
Like my Siri is acting up. But anyway, when it's trying to ensure that there's a free... So when you're watching free tutorials, that free tutorials is probably not necessarily meant for you. Right? It's meant for someone who's already comfortable setting up the type of stuff that you find that you have no idea how to set up. And so therefore, you now have to go find a tutorial on how to set up those, the software that is asking you to set up. But this is the interesting part. This is actually how most software development developers learn. They learn by asking questions.
Yeah.
So, for example, you watch a tutorial, and then the tutorial asks you to set up some applications, but did not walk you through on how to learn to set up those applications. Then that's an open question to you. Then a person who has a leaning to become a developer would then start to ask questions. Google again, say, how do I set up this particular application? Then they're going to find information. The information will yet be incomplete. And perhaps incomplete is that there's 3 tutorials on how to set up this particular application that you need. And then the 3 tutorials give you different steps. And they overlap like this. These 3 tutorials overlap like this. So you're like, okay, I probably need to do this for sure because it's talked about in every single one of them. But do I need this? Do I need this? Do I need this? I don't know. But I guess I should try it and see what happens. So the person tried the first tutorial, and then turns out that everything is bad in that particular tutorial. Following that tutorial doesn't make any sense. So okay, so I can get rid of this guy. Now I try that second tutorial. The second tutorial get halfway, that throws an error. And that error makes no sense. So the person who has a software development leaning will then Google again, what does this error mean? And then there's another 3 articles that talks about this error, but 2 of them seems related, but one of them seems completely unrelated. So the person tried to solve problem with that error and so on, and continue to lead to the search. And finally, by the time this whole process is finished, this person has now learned how to set up this application and can finally come back to the tutorial. Then continue on the tutorial. And this is exactly how software developers learn, as a matter of fact. Most software developers learn things this way. And so I won't be surprised if if the free tutorials are produced by software developer, they will also produce them in a very similar fashion. They will produce something that's like a piece of puzzle that's incomplete, and where you're responsible for filling this piece of puzzle by looking at something else, and then so on until finally you get to a point where you're satisfied with the piece of puzzle. Then you trace your steps back to this existing piece of puzzle before you continue.
Yeah, this is again very interesting because I keep thinking about my educational experience as a teacher, for example. So, and I totally agree with you that if we just give information to people, they will just listen to it. They won't learn anything because basically education means you are involved into this process 100%. You're asking questions. The teacher is only guiding you, give some experience, like notes, some tips for you. And so basically, it's your responsibility to learn these things. Now, on the other hand, sometimes, especially I think in software development, you will have questions that don't have the answer. And even though you can go through like article by article, and basically you get some clues, you get some ideas, but eventually it will become really confusing unless some article really answers that question. So in that case, it's awesome. So you can just apply that solution. So sometimes it does get difficult, actually. I think that just in my experience, and
it does. As a matter of fact, it's the same thing. It happens on just about every single software developer's job on a daily basis, that there will be some question that they need to solve, and probably 80% of the time there's a ready-to-go solution that they can just apply.